welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Jerusalem's Gate. I'm not doing a technical video as usual. I'm doing a screen capture video today. I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the Kurdish people, man, my heart goes out to them. They're between a rock and a hard space again, and they took the brunt of the casualties and were their main fighting force for the U.S. against ISIS, killing and torturing and beheading Christians, many times trying to get them to renounce their faith, and many did not renounce their faith, and they, of course, received the martyr's crown in heaven. I'm sure of that. But we know that Turkey, the video I came out with yesterday, and I highly suggest you watch it. It was quickly put together because I was in a rush, but it was real important for you to see that video. I've been talking for years now about Ezekiel 38 and how things were forming in the world exactly like a puzzle being put together. What Ezekiel wrote in 38 about Gog and Magog and list of countries that's going to come against Israel in the latter days, and we're definitely living in the latter days. No, I'm not saying that Putin is Gog, G-O-G, Gog. I don't think Gog himself knows that he's Gog. But Turkey invaded Syria. I talked about that well over a year and a half ago, that the stage was being set for that. And a lot of people did. I'm not the only one that thought that, in Ezekiel 38, it lists Tubal as one of the nations, and the ancient name of Turkey is Tubal. And Turkey has been getting, over the years, very friendly with Russia, buying military equipment when Turkey is a NATO ally, and Russia equipment does not fit into the architectural system of NATO nations. It just, I don't know, what's that old saying? It walks like a duck, it talks like a duck. I just feel sad for the Kurds, man. My heart, it just, goodness gracious, what can you say? But supposedly, President Trump sent Pence to meet with Erdogan with Turkey, and they had come to a pause of fighting. And there's conflicting reports from both sides saying that the pause has been breached. Coming out 2 hours ago, ABC News, within hours of Pence meeting, Turkey's, quote, pause on attacking Syria appears breached. Let's read. Turkey's agreement with the United States to, quote, pause fighting in Syria appears to have been breached within hours of Vice President Mike Pence's announcement, as eyewitnesses report violence is still going on. Turkish artillery continues shelling, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, a Syrian city on the Turkish border that had been facing heavy violence since U.S. troops withdrew early last week, according to eyewitnesses. I do not understand how a NATO nation can get so close with Russia, buying military equipment, doing so much stuff with Russia, and being a NATO ally. And the Kurds were there to fight for the Christians. It's very sad to me. I'm very sad over this situation. Extremely sad and extremely confused about some intentions on our part to what are we trying to achieve here? I support my commander-in-chief. I'm just since this Turkish invasion, I'm very, very confused on the objective here. But let's watch a video real quick, and let's watch it. Here we go.
Announced a ceasefire with Turkey that would pause attacks against Kurdish forces, but that deal may already be falling apart. So I want to bring in James Longman, who's on the ground in northern Iraq. James, what's the latest there? And I think people just want to know, is this a ceasefire or is it not?
Kimberly, I'd love to be able to give you a straight answer. The simple fact is that it's just not clear. Both sides are calling foul here. Today, President Erdogan said that he was honouring the agreement that the Turkish forces were no longer bombarding Kurdish towns in the north of Syria. And we did see some evidence of the fact that Kurdish forces had continued their artillery fire in the early morning this morning, but today everything does seem a lot calmer. There's a live shot up of the border town of Ras Al Ain, where a lot of the fighting has been focused on. We haven't seen any fighting there. That said, the Kurds are telling us that fighting has continued all day. It's really very difficult to get real information out of Syria. Even when I was there in March, when we saw the fall of Baghouz in the south, where ISIS, that was that last town that the SDF were wrestling away from ISIS, we were getting conflicting reports from the SDF and we were with them. So I'd love to be able to tell you the facts that this is either gone one way or the other, but it just isn't clear at this point. I think what we can be certain of, though, is the big disagreement on the terms of the ceasefire, because what was agreed between Vice President Pence and President Erdogan was that the Kurdish groups would retreat from that border area, that sort of 20-mile or so in from the northern Syrian border. And we know that the Kurds just won't do that. So even if the ceasefire hasn't been broken today, what's going to happen at the end of the 5-day period, that 120-hour period that has been agreed between the Turkish and the Kurds? I think most people believe that the fighting will begin again, if it hasn't already.
All right, James Longman right there on the ground in northern Iraq.
All right, well, you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'll say this about the what's happening in the East. You start, and I've preached this for such a long time now, you're starting to see Russia take a greater and greater, as every day passes, a greater position in the East. Whoever controls the oil flow and the oil in the East and the flow of that oil controls the world economy. And you're starting to see Russia really, and it's been a gradual process, but it seems like they're looking to take that leading role to be the leader or the main controller, or influence, I should say, in the East, the oil-rich East. But Turkey's ancient name is Tubal, like I was saying so many times, and Tubal is listed in Ezekiel 38, as is Russia and Iran. And it's just, it seems to me like, nobody knows 100%. Now, I'm not saying 100%, but it's, man, I'm telling you, that thing is walking like a duck and talking like a duck like crazy. And we may be seeing Ezekiel 38 continue to transpire here. Nothing's for sure. I'm not saying it's guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed, but hey. But I wanted to get this out to you. Remember that we'll keep you updated. It's going to be very interesting after these 5 days. What's going to transpire in the next 4 or 5 days about this so-called pause in fighting and the Kurds retreating as part of that pause. If the Kurds will do that, the Kurds have been pushed around so much. Maybe they had enough of it and decided to go. They're going to go ahead and fight. I don't know. I just don't know. But with that being said, I want to give you this update. Keep your eye on Syria. I've been preaching it for years now. Keep your eye on Syria. Keep your eye on Russia taking a greater position in the East. It started years ago and it's growing. It's prophecy. The Bible doesn't lie, but is this what Ezekiel 38 is talking about? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. Very concerning. Very concerning. With that being said, you're watching and listening to another broadcast of Jerusalem's Gate.